Aloha family, aloha tribe, aloha all sentient beings. Those of you who don't necessarily resonate and or are not uh, aligned with the tribe and family vibes. This is King Gabriel, and I'm going to be looking at America and the Vedic Astrology of America. Very excited. This was inspired by a dear friend, Chad. Thank you very much. God bless you. Yeah, it's come up several times in several different conversations and different dimensions, different fields coming out together, and we all know how the synchronicities work. So um, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I've never seen this. I haven't looked at it. Really, people have been asking me for at least the last couple months since this whole Pluto return meme has been spreading across the astrology world, and all the astrologers really love to just, get stoked about stuff like this because it helps business and it helps people attain clarity about the self and so forth. So yeah, it's good. And I'm not really usually into these things, but I'm super excited. I'm an American, and I feel like I've gotten the true date and the true ascendant and the true time of America from my teacher, Sam Geppi, and a particular researcher. And so, I feel very confident now about doing the chart, whereas before, a lot of it was speculation. This feels very accurate, very precise. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. I'm going to be using a couple things. So we're going to be looking at the chart. We're also going to be looking at some general references that I have just for the video, just for you to see, for people who learn visually and so forth. So here we have selfrealization.net. We got Rahasya, Vedic Astrology, Astrovade, Barbara P. John, among others. This is a TT reference chart from my teacher, Sam Geppi. And yeah, and then I might bring up some more maybe visuals, maybe examples, etc. And then we have here what's basically the right time, the precise actual chart of America. We see here that Ebenezer Sibley, an 18th century British astrologer. Here I can kind of zoom in here. Ebenezer Sibley, 18th British astrologer and Freemason, published the first in a horoscope of the USA in the early 1780s in a complete illustration, quote, complete illustration of the celestial signs of astrology. Highly recommend people checking that out if they're interested. Using 10:10 p.m. GMT equals 5:10 p.m. LMT in Philadelphia. Sibley's chart by 1785 was variously quoted as 5 p.m., not 5:10 p.m., 4:50 p.m. and 5:15 p.m. for the USA horoscope. Date of the signature of the Declaration of Independence from the Library of Congress, the Philadelphia Historic Society, Thomas Jefferson. When an old man said it was late afternoon when the document was signed, John Adams, Quincy Adams also claimed that they signed late in the day. Manly P. Hall, also a Freemason and sort of magic practitioner. For those of you who know him, God bless you. After visiting the Library of Congress sometime in the early 1940s, said that he found the writings that supported between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. without noting his source. In conclusion, several sources affirmed that the declaration was voted on by mid-afternoon, but it seemed clear the document was not signed until later in the afternoon, somewhere around 5 o'clock local time in Philadelphia, PA. A rectified time is beyond the scope today. We will mainly be exploring the chart using 5:10 p.m. As it changed the ascendant from Sagittarius to Scorpio. Overall, Scorpio is the ascendant with a ruling planet Mars going in the 8th house. Works very well if you consider its Masonic secret society origins, militarization, colonization, taking the land from natives, enslavement, warrior history. In addition, the USA has a hero leader of the free world, etc., etc., etc. So I won't necessarily go into this. Is a longer. There's several pages where this information comes from, but I just wanted to read the preface for essentially where I'm getting this information from. I've researched some of this myself in the past as well, and can confirm the Manly P Hall part, especially being between 4:30 and 6 p.m. So without further ado, here we go. So let's go to the chart. And yeah, so wow, Scorpio Ascendant. So the first thing about Scorpio Ascendant I've been talking about, and I get to kind of share in this video, if some of you were involved with Chad and I's conversation in the Isha Oracle channel, which I will put the link on in this video. You know, that America as a Scorpio Ascendant suddenly has everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. So let's talk about it. Number one, you know, the 8th house in general is the house of other people's money. Okay, other people's money. And other people's money immediately relates to having a fiat currency, a debt system. You know, other people's energy is also other people's money. So basically, like creating a system, creating a foundation, creating an entire country based off the life force of an entire people. Not only based off slavery, but actually destroying the people. A land that's built from death, that's also 8th house, as the 8th house is the house of death. A land that's built on secrets and Freemasons and basically high-level magic practitioners, also 8th house, also Scorpio. Having a land where you don't really know who the leaders actually are, total Scorpio move. Scorpio seeks to really not have you know that it has power and to manipulate from the back end. You know, there's this thing called the deep state that people might be aware of. Deep state, totally Scorpio, actually manipulating from this from the back end, having multiple curtains where there's the surface level leaders, and then there's the leaders behind them, and then there's the leaders behind them. Total Scorpio move. You know, assassinations, having basically like the top ninjas of the world, aka the CIA, also a Scorpio move. I mean, even the, you know, the beginnings of the CIA being like, you know, we have to do, you know, we fight for the people where the government and the military can't. Even that idea of fighting invisible wars is in Scorpio. As Scorpio relates to invisible wars, it relates to invisible energy, it relates to shamans and you know, black magic occultists, anyone who's dealing with invisible energies and invisible phenomena, spirits, you know, etc. Just the list goes on. So so many things relate to the 8th house and other people's money. You know, the way that we have colonized, you know, been in the colonization world, advanced the colonization game, started by Europe and Spain and, you know, so forth. You know, what else is there? There's you know, stinging ourself. You know, that's one thing about the Scorpio, is the Scorpio stings itself. And yeah, I mean, we've definitely been doing that recently, that's for sure. You know, we might end up just taking ourselves out to begin with from our own grandeur, but you know, the story hasn't been told yet. We're still in it, but that's also something, you know, there's a high amount of saboteurness when people talk about the ails of America, when people in America especially, less so people out of America, but when people in America talk about the problems of America, one of the things that really comes up is how we're basically sabotaging ourselves. We have these corporations and we have these powers and even the government that are making rules, making systems, making trade routes, making trades, making businesses that are selling poisons to the people who were in the same land. Total Scorpio move. Total Scorpio move. Selling out your soul for money. Total Scorpio move, because money ends up being the idea of the pursuit of business, which is the 3rd house from Scorpio, which is Capricorn, and the 3rd house happens to be filled with Pluto retrograde and Ketu, which is all about having an ego as a Scorpio ascendant that is all about making money and making business, and therefore sacrificing one's life force energy, sacrificing one's sexual energy, sacrificing one's Shakti for money, right? And so if we look at that as an entire country, an entire body of people, we can see how that's easily happened with the industrial complex, with the military industrial complex, with the industrial age in general, and now with the medical industrial complex, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll even talk about later how the medical house, the 12th house and the 6th house, Libra and Aries, have everything to do with this entire quote unquote pandemic, and the medical industrial complex, and how we're at war with ourselves, and we want to heal, but wow, AARP, as Aries is in there, the fervor of AARP and the entire union of the elderly and elderly associations, total Aries, even the elderly being kind of like old school Scorpio people make sense. Now, okay, so here's another thing about Scorpio ascendant as a country. So if we're looking at this as a country, we're looking at this as, well, what is a country? It's a body of people. What is a country? It's a egregore. It's a astral entity that contains the consciousness of those individuals who have consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously agreed to the contract and the tether and attachment of that astral entity in the first place. And therefore, if we look at the collective of America, we're essentially looking at a bunch of Scorpios. Now, that might not have addressed, that might not have been addressed at all from anyone doing America's chart, especially since everyone was thinking that America was a Sagittarius, which it makes sense. We're all about goals, we're all about integrity and doing all these things. And really that was just a Scorpio with the second house of Sagittarius, with Jupiter across from Sagittarius in the 8th house, trying to act righteous, but really just playing around. Having family that is righteous, having an associated righteous family over there in Europe or over there in other places in Russia or wherever, because Russia's on here too. And as much as we like to hate on Russia, Russia's basically like sort of arch enemy brother, if you will, in the family, fighting. What is it? In fighting in the family. But that's pretty high level, and I don't have enough info to go into that so much, but it's all in there as a Scorpio ascendant. So there's just so much to talk about with America being a Scorpio ascendant, and just highly recommend everyone to meditate on being a Scorpio if you're an American. Just think about yourself as a Scorpio ascendant if you're an American, and think about how you might have ignored your shadows. You might have gone through a journey of healing, a journey of shamanism. You might have a history of witchiness. You might have a history of being burnt at the stake or burning other people at the stake. You might have some scorpionic heavy influences in your life. So another thing here, speaking about third house, is we have K2 in the third house. And it's so funny because having K2 and Capricorn in the third house of the ego makes so much sense for America, because America is like a super business person. And oftentimes I've wondered, man, business in America, like, what is the deal? But we just got it down. The spirit of America has already mastered Capricorn in some other lifetime. So, it's just going, it's hardcore. And, with K2 and Pluto retrograde, it's like not only is there this spirit of industry and spirit of business of K2 and Capricorn, but you also have Pluto retrograde, which is destroying, sabotaging, and transforming from the inside out, from the industry and the business, right? So literally we soylent greened our people, completely programmed our people and our children for industry, for the industrial age, for business, creating a plutonic cycle of trauma, and really even living out probably traumas that we cause others with ourselves, right? So very likely that the spirit of America, again, as an individual, as a chart, as an astral entity, likely did it to a bunch of other people, not in its own country, right? So there was, some people say America is Atlantis. So who knows, it could have been Atlantis, could have been some other, the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire. Some people say America is really just the new Roman Empire. But the idea is making a bunch of other people slaves, and then creating industry from the backs of other people. And then now with Pluto retrograde, especially the retrograde part, we're doing it with ourselves. We're eating ourselves. We're using our own energy. And it makes sense then, the narrative about America crumbling and the West crumbling, as kind of like a short-term empire, because we're eating ourselves. And being a Scorpio, one thing about Scorpio Ascendant is that Scorpios are related to this idea of succubus and incubus. And a succubus and an incubus is essentially a being that eats its own astral and sexual energies to feel pleasure and to secure the emotions, the everyday emotions of pleasure, to try and falsely create some sort of pleasure security or bliss security in the everyday life by eating or using its own sexual energies. Totally done by America. Makes so much sense. And so, yeah, I can definitely see that happening, also with America being just Scorpio ascendant in general. So, yeah, so KCU in third house, Pluto in the third house, Pluto retrograde in the third house. The Gulika point is also in the third house, and the Gulika point is also in Capricorn. So even the destiny of America is really about kind of living from this, old-timey past ego of liberty and, back in my day, everything, on the shoulders of giants and all of that stuff. All the successes and everything is really built on, number one, all the death happening in the beginning, the sort of industry of our forefathers slash, whatever was going on in the Roman Empire slash Europe at the time of cessation, and the various negative karmas, Pluto, and transformations even that occur from that, right? Because we've definitely been a transformative country. We've transformed the entire world, in fact. But we've also transformed ourselves. Everyone in America has transformed themselves. Everyone in America has gone through a transformative journey. America is not the place that you grow up and you live in and you don't change. America is not the place that you have a land and you have your family, and your family has had land for 7 generations, and you're chilling and you're not doing much with your life, and you're basically the same personality forever. America is not that kind of Piscean energy at all. America is definitely a place of ego change, for sure. Even our psychology is based on ego change, ego transformation. Everything's about ego transformation. Business, like, even if you think about all the coaching, business coaching, transform yourself, transform your ego. Now, people say transform your character, but it's not like, yeah, we do want to transform our character as Scorpio ascendants. We do want to transform our character as Scorpio ascendants. However, likely until we even know that there's a difference between the character and the mask, the ego. Speaking of masks, we're likely just trying to transform our ego, trying to transform the superficial aspects of our spirit soul. So, yeah, the Galuka point in the third house, really amazing too. Absolutely fantastic. Won't necessarily talk about the false ascendant, the AL there, and a bunch of other aspects here. This is not so much a deeper analysis, just a surface level, but still super fun. So there's a lot to talk about here. So, I mean, might as well go around the clock. First, fourth house, that's crazy. Fourth house, people were like, oh yeah, America is a Cancer. America has Cancer energy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Fourth house moon with the Cancer, we got it. Like the feminine here is strong. Feminine here is really strong. The feminine here is super strong. And it's funny because if you picture a Scorpio with really strong mothering energy, or a Scorpio, a Scorpio's mom as an Aquarius, you do kind of get the picture of sort of you know, this idea of America and the patriarchy blaming everything on the mother, beating the mother, telling the yin, oh, you got to cook and you got to clean, you got to do everything because you're an Aquarius and I'm projecting all my bullshit onto you and you're the world, so you got to make the world run while I'm over here hiding in a corner. Makes total sense. Fourth house moon in Aquarius, you know. Even the way Americans are handling the age of Aquarius is moon in Aquarius. You know, we're just like, well, I guess we'll surrender. It's the only thing we can do. You know, there's so much like being tapped into the collective consciousness, and how America is really at the forefront of this entire change of consciousness in the age of Aquarius. By the way, happening, you know, what is it? I think, oh man, I had the official date. I think it was like 2025 or something like that. It like officially starts, and then there's like a big break in 2060 or something. But anyway, so yeah, you know, that's, I could totally see that the moon in Aquarius happening, fourth house moon, fourth house mom, Aquarius mom. You know, the earth is our mother. You know, even the oil industry, and you know, using our mother, using the world for what? For our ego business gains, and for our scorpionic sort of self-eating tendencies, using other people's energy, using our mother's energy among other people's energy, even using our mother's energy to like do everything. Literally, we drive our cars with the oil, with our mother's energy. You know, the oil is really just earth blood, for those of you who haven't connected that. So yeah, I mean, total wow. Wow, that's all I gotta say. You know, that there's a lot of healing there. There's a lot of healing there. You know, being a Scorpio ascendant is really the entire point of America at this point, as a Scorpio ascendant, is to transform ourselves and heal our own trauma. You know, there's a very popular New Age story of most people being born in America essentially coming from Atlantis, healing Atlantean trauma, and I could definitely correlate with that myself, even in my own experience, and I could see how that would be the case with K2 in Capricorn, with being a Scorpio ascendant in general. And then the idea of you know, fourth house mom, a fourth house Aquarius mom, moon in Aquarius, you know, psychic emotional connection to the collective consciousness, and you know, just the way Americans kind of operate in general, with, you know, senses of entitlement, senses of I know better than you, senses of we're the best, senses of like, you know, I've thought about this and I know exactly what's going on. And you know, and it's so funny because because like people are dumbfounded by like even why Americans act that way. And it's because the moon is in Aquarius. It's not a mental area that we're necessarily working from. It's literally an emotional sense that we fucking know everything. That's hilarious. Anyway, so yeah, moon in Aquarius makes so much sense. Wow. Moon in fourth house makes so much sense. And yeah, all the healing is in Sagittarius for that. All the healing of the trauma that the Western world and Americans in particular have with the feminine, with the goddess, with the Mother Earth, is all in Sagittarius. It's all about rituals, healing the land through rituals. Where is Jupiter? Jupiter is in the 8th house, healing our soul through ritual. It's funny because, you know, all it really takes is a quick reversal. We're doing so much black magic for business. Where, you know, that's another thing about being a Scorpio ascendant, is that if you haven't already connected this, they're called business entities. And every single one of those business entities is really just summoners at work, working with lower spirits, some of them higher, hopefully, but likely a lot lower, and using it to make money and worldly gain. So we're a bunch of summoners in business, literally, as Scorpio Ascendants. Wow, even that's crazy, but again, all the healing is flipping that around in Sagittarius, Jupiter, Sun, Venus, and Mars, big old stellium in Gemini, and it's about using those rituals, using those ceremonies to actually heal the mother, to actually heal our trauma, to create more compassion for our family, ceremony with tribes, ceremony with people. If anything, a lot of this whole, hey, don't gather, don't get together, don't be around other people, is really preventing that. It's really just our own scorpionic self sabotaging the remedy of getting together in ceremony and healing the land, healing our hearts, healing our trauma, because ultimately that's actually what's going to heal the mother. That's what's going to heal the Mother Earth, and that's what's going to heal us too, right? So that's in the chart. Bam, super easy, and there's some Virgo stuff there about surrender and about really having to work on a negative mind. That's Saturn and Virgo. But anyway, we'll keep going around the clock. So what else we got? Fifth house, Pisces, that's a whoa. I'm not going to go into the empty houses because there's so much energy here. I'm just going to go in the one planets. But yeah, fifth house, Pisces, that's just super interesting with Jupiter fourth from fifth. Yeah, just there's just that's just really loaded. A lot of our power is in the spirit world. A lot of America's power is in the spirit world. A lot of America's power is in the astral world, is in the summoner world, is in the shamanic world. Most of our power really comes from the emotional and astral places. It doesn't come from physical places. Most of our battles are won through psychological warfare and emotional warfare. Most of the things happening behind the scene that are keeping America in power are all about like crazy ass contracts with demigods and stuff like that. And that's totally fifth house Pisces. Like you can't, it's just all the power is coming from the spirit world. Literally all the power of America and Americans in general is coming from the spirit world. So I can totally see that happening. Anyway, yeah, sixth house Mars, our daily life is all about war. That's obvious and definitely real. Seventh house Taurus, we're all in a relationship with the earth in a really interesting way. And there is this kind of like hardcore unconscious aspect of wanting to be free of the earth that Americans have. And I would say it's very, all of the, Annie Besant and Ledbetter and all these theosophy people and all the new age, Illuminati planned philosophies and satanic philosophies and even these ideas of being free from money or needing money to be free or wanting to change the economic system or wanting to change the economy of the world or even having a new world order. Totally seeing that as seventh house Uranus from as a Scorpio ascendant with seventh house Taurus. Totally see all of that inside of seventh house Taurus with Uranus inside. That's really just makes a whole lot of sense. So eventually just breaking free from our attachment. A lot of the conditions that we've made in America are really about breaking free from our attachment to the earth in general, breaking free from our attachment from wealth in general, being in wealth, having a very interesting and blessed relationship, seventh house relationship with the abundance of the earth, with the abundance of the oil, having access to the oil, having access to the sky, having access to the sea, having access to all the wealth of the riches of the world. Even Uranus, talk about aliens, and Uranus and Neptune, especially Uranus, aliens and tapping into the underground riches of the earth, underground tunnels, even that's there with Scorpio, specifically with Scorpio, esoteric stuff that no one really understands, but the relationship is there inside of the chart. So yeah, wow, just fascinating stuff. Let's see. So yeah, eighth house, man, a stellium is super huge. Wow, eighth house Gemini, Scorpio ascendant, 4 planet stellium, A5, So the false fifth house ends up being Gemini. So our false power, the power that we espouse superficially, is the power to speak, America's power to create agreements, America's power to be incredibly expressive about the spirit of liberty, the spirit of freedom, the spirit of, you know, going on your own and striking your own, and contract agreement. Venus is there, the expression of our boundaries and war and things of that nature. That's all there with that stellium in Gemini, 100% as a false fifth house, or sort of the egoic fifth house, I'll say. And then on top of that, just, you know, being the natural eighth house. I mean, there's just so much. Like, already we're in eighth house Bava, already we're a Scorpio ascendant, which is the natural eighth house, and then we have a stellium in the eighth house. You couldn't, like, we're basically just a bunch of ninjas. I guarantee you that America is filled with a bunch of reincarnated assassins. Guaranteed. Reincarnated assassins who retired and tried to own a business and ended up being assassinated themselves. Yeah, man, wow, that's just crazy. Usually by their own friends, assassinated by their own friends. How many movies has Hollywood made about assassins being assassinated by their own friends? Such a Scorpio karma. Wow. You know, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate to micro versions of that karma recently, as we just had a bunch of planets go through Scorpio, in fact. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so stellium in eighth house Gemini. Eighth house Gemini is, you know, it's, for one thing, I could see just it being the eighth house energy is being addictive. You know, porn. Wow, that's you might as well just say porn for 4-planet eighth house stellium from Scorpio in Gemini. Porn. The biggest industry in the world, created here, like nowhere else. We're the ones who did it. We're the ones who were like, yo, Gemini eighth house, we love the porn, we love the sex, we love the sexual energy, we want everybody to have it. We want to expand it, we want it across the whole world, we want to travel with it, but we want to keep it hush hush. So we don't want anyone to know. So porn is illegal. Bravos are illegal. No, we don't like that stuff at all. This is killing me right now, dude. It's so funny to me because I understand it so much. I actually have Mars in Scorpio, by the way, so there's a lot of this energy that I fully understand myself. Kind of doxing myself. Ooh, hey. Oh wow, it's got Mars, Scorpio. Anyway, so what else we got? You know, yeah. I mean, you know what? I'm just gonna move on. I feel like it's so there's such a large energy, but just like porn, that might as well just be like the thing. Porn. Other people's energy in Gemini, that's another thing, just being addicted to going into other countries and stealing their fucking energy, for sure. And Gemini is the, you know, the natural bhava, natural house of short trips. So it's like, as a country, it would mean short trips to other countries, to other lands. So basically little short jaunts, you know, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year jaunts, going into another place, stealing their fucking energy like vampires, loving it. Absolutely, like getting, like, almost, you know, how they say, there's this addiction to, oh man, I can't remember the term anymore. Like repeat monogamy, or like it's this thing where like you love the energy of new relationships so much, so you just relationship hop because you love being in those relationships. I can't remember what it's called right now. It's kind of escaped my mind, not in that world anymore. But I can totally see that here. I can just see like absolutely loving the colonization thing and just going into other people's countries, going into other people's spaces, even not even other, like, yeah, in fact, yeah, I can even see that too, just with the military. Again, as a Scorpio ascendant, being incredibly militaristic, military and secret militaries being basically the top thing of the country and of our consciousness, collective consciousness of America, going into other places, going into other psychic spaces, countries, whatever you want to call them, and stealing their energy, taking their energy, using the energy for our purposes, for the purposes of America, for its purposes. Totally see that as a real thing for sure. And you know, it's not cool. It's not cool at all. And yet there, it's like, it's an addiction. It's super fun. It's in Gemini. It's it's just like, it's on the news. People fucking talk, oh shit, we're in this country and fucking blah blah blah. But you know, everything we say isn't actually what we're doing. Even though I think a lot of people know subconsciously, because again, it's Scorpio, which is the subconscious. A lot of people know exactly what's going on and they want it. That's the funny thing. I remember first time I went to Big Island and I met a bunch of retirees of the military. And you know, that was the first time I realized that you know, people want war. You know, I remember this one lady, she was saying, can you believe that we're apologizing for killing a shit ton of people in Japan? How dare they? You know, it's like, holy fuck, lady, you know, like, wow. So anyway, you know, cursing like Scorpio, but you know, no reason to curse anyone, or myself, in fact, really, which is really the point, because you're just stinging yourself. We're just stinging ourselves. And that's the lesson. That's the Scorpio lesson, the Phoenix. Anyway, we'll get there. So yeah, moving on past the 8th house, there's just so much Scorpio energy. It's, I think we get the point. Rahu and Mercury retrograde in Cancer in the 9th house. Now, this is the thing that has probably led everyone to think, let alone just being a Scorpio and obviously doing it on purpose. Because you don't want anyone to know you're a Scorpio if you're a Scorpio. Yeah, you know, kind of like a fake 9th house, you know, like Rahu in the 9th house trying to act righteous and really wanting to be righteous, but not having, it's just not the time, you know, we haven't actually healed the trauma. We haven't actually repented as a country, you know, I'll say it hasn't actually repented, you know, it wants to be righteous. It wants to be a part of the God realm. It wants to be incredibly compassionate, nurturing country that goes into other places and saves them. It wants to do that. Yeah, sure. As a Scorpio that hasn't healed its trauma and that loves to steal other people's energy and is basically vampiric, yeah, okay, cool. So, you know, that's what we've been doing for sure. And Mercury retrograde, even like not even really being able to understand our intellectual motives, and not having the wherewithal to meditate and kind of be in how we feel enough to know, oh, hey, maybe we shouldn't go here. Maybe we shouldn't invade this country and try to be their mommy, because that's certainly what it is. And it's so funny too, because again, America with the 4th house representing the mother and America's own aptitude for motherhood in Aquarius, trying to be the world's mother, going into other countries, trying to mommy them as a Scorpio. Having a Scorpio mom, I mean, that's, you know, that's one heck of a thing. I know a lot of Scorpio moms, and I think we're going through it too, or at least we will as a country. A lot of Scorpio moms, they end up having a child that steals their energy just as much as they took other people's. So it's kind of a heavy lesson. And then some people are really just, you know, they have a Scorpio mom that has learned the lessons and they get to teach them all about the psychic shamanic stuff. They have Scorpio moms that just steal their energy and then they end up, you know, kind of having to learn those lessons. But, you know, as a country, wow, as a collective consciousness, even more so, wow, you know, as a people, man, go figure everyone complains about Americans. Literally, this is what we do. We go into other people's countries and steal their fucking energy, act like it's our country, act like we're their mother and we deserve everything anyway. That's literally what people do. We call it tourism. This house right here, Rahu Mercury retrograde, is tourism. I almost want to look at the etymology of tour. So I think I'm going to do it. Let's go to our reference page here. Let's see. Tour etymology. So yeah, let's, Wiktionary is okay. Etymology dot tour de force. Ooh, tour, a tower. That's interesting. Anyway. Okay, so let's check out tour. And then a turn, a shift on duty. Oh, a turn, a trick around a circuit, a circumference, water, Cancer. To rotate, revolve. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, definitely tourism. Exactly. To go to one of these other places, to travel, ninth house, to go to these other countries, pretend to be righteous, pretend to be the best, pretend to be their mom, completely act a fool and make incredibly stupid decisions in different countries. Mercury retrograde in ninth house, FYI. Yeah, that's just, yeah. And, we can't forget Dharma. So our Dharma is to become a compassionate country. That's the interesting thing. And I don't think it's up to the country. I think it's actually up to the individuals, because the fourth house is an individual house. And so it's almost as if we're being tasked as a collective to become incredibly compassionate individuals in our own life, and use the lessons of transformation, of trauma that we have as a collective to create compassion compassion-based tours, compassion-based businesses, compassion-based families, compassion-based communities, and create a ring of compassion that eventually heals us, and we're all learning how to be truly compassionate, and give the world compassion as our dharma, right? So the dharma here, even with Rahu, is really to actually learn what true compassion is. I think that's probably why the Dalai Lama even has such an interesting relationship with the CIA, with America. I feel like the Dalai Lama obviously is a worldwide teacher, but has a very special relationship with America, especially now. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Europe also, though, I feel like even Europe maybe more so than America, but a pretty big relationship with America. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the Dharma aspect, spiritual aspect for sure. And interestingly enough, also, compassionate based rituals, and ultimately coming back to that as the solution overall for all Americans, which is to get together, love each other, heal our trauma through shamanic rituals, and not abusing, even our cannabis, even the cannabis wave of consciousness from the 40s, sort of being activated in America in the 50s and 60s, is here as a Scorpio ascendant, ninth house, subconsciously, unconsciously healing our trauma through shamanism, 100%. And yet still abusing it all, and really just kind of wanting that yummy Shakti, sex energy, bliss energy, Shakti energy, from the plant. And then, getting rid of it, and 12 steps and all that stuff, that's all there. Yeah, 12 steps is actually, I think, more so Saturn, Neptune, and Virgo, really. But 12 steps is, I would say, really ninth house as a philosophy. 12 steps coming from America as a philosophy. Rahu, Mercury retrograde, Cancer, 12 steps for sure. 12 steps, all about group healing, Cancer, all about going inward, Mercury retrograde with a group, Cancer, and even the sort of acceleration process of Rahu being in the 12 steps, and even 12 steps being kind of like it works as a philosophy, and yet there's still like a lot of things missing because it's not complete, right? And yet there's still a lot of things missing from the, you know, westernized Christian version, Americanized version of Christianity that's lacking Rahu, ninth house, Mercury retrograde, making the wrong decisions, getting the philosophies wrong, not understanding it's an allegory, creating things from the allegory. I understand that a lot of that is from the Catholic Church and, you know, other realms, because we have way more of a history, obviously, you know, backing America, but even relating to our history is you know, America, ninth house, Rahu, Mercury retrograde. So you can see all of that being included. Hyped, man. America's energy. Wow. So a lot of my excitation is also the Scorpionic energy of America. Even reading its chart, it's pretty interesting. Got to calm myself down. So yeah, you know, another thing that comes to me, rewinding a little bit, eighth house Gemini is oh, well, maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah, for some reason I had just thought of it, but yeah, for some reason it just left me, so maybe it'll come back. All right, secret intelligence. That's another thing. Having basically like the biggest CIA having you know, what's it called, after World War II, ushering all the scientists here in secret and then keeping their identity, changing their identity, you know, all the science that we have in secret in the military, militaristic intelligence, yeah, like secret intelligence, secret genius, actually, that to be more specific. Speaking of specific, Saturn and Virgo, 11th house, having an aversion to details, which I'll talk about in a moment. Oh man, Americans don't like details at all. So yeah, no, secret intelligence, secret genius. There really is a secret genius. Americans are geniuses. I would say that every American is a genius in waiting. I would also say that our education system is a, you know, being being a Scorpio ascendant and having sabotaged our own education due to various karmas and just kind of wanting, you know, people to work, wanting industry and all that stuff. A lot of reasons to have sort of sleeping giants, lots of sort of secret geniuses, hidden genius in all of us, which is, that's the whole world. But I mean, it really is the case that like there's so much intelligence. I remember going through this. A lot of people don't really understand this. You know, I went through this whole journey myself where I learned all about computers, and I spent 10 plus years in the computers, on the computers, being a network engineer. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I realized, holy shit, I don't know anything. If an EMP came, I don't know anything. I don't know how to build cars. I don't know how to do anything. And you know, I feel like there was more of this education earlier in America's life. You know, teaching people shop, teaching people how to cook, and there might even be more of it later. Who knows? In more of a private cell kind of way, sort of networked cell kind of way. But regardless, yeah, there's a lot of sleeping genius, and it really just takes just a tiny little flip, where, you know, the math that we learned, the social skills that we learned, the various topics in school that we learned just need to be tweaked a little bit with a few perception tweaks, just a few redirects, and suddenly we're geniuses. It's really interesting. I could see that being for everybody, for every single person, let alone the country and how the country uses that energy, but also just people in general. And because we just have, there's so much affluence, there's so much blessings, and so much ability to use the intelligence we have in a different way. So I can totally see the secret genius being there. Anyway, 10th house Leo, that just makes a lot of sense. We're career leaders, Americans. That's just, yeah. And then the sun in the 11th house, politics, super fun, all of it, just highly connected. 10th house, 8th house, the Gemini Leo, ruler of Leo, the sun in Gemini, in 8th house, 10th house connection. Can totally see that happening for all the astrologers. You can take a look at that later. I'm not going to go into much into that. What else? Let's see. Yeah, so 11th house Saturn with Neptune, Scorpio Ascendant, America. Wow. So yeah, a version of the details. And also, speaking of secret genius, just a lot of ancient, wise, ancestral intelligence that is really being underutilized because most people who have it think that they're slaves. Speaking of secret, hidden genius, that's also there. And then interestingly enough, the ultimate reward for America comes from an empowered, impoverished community. There was this prophecy that came from India quite a long time ago, from the East, and I think it might even have been freaking Iraq and the Middle East, maybe is the actual origins, but maybe some jinns or something like that were responsible. But the prophecy was, if yogis and other spiritual types went to America and taught poor people yoga, there would be peace on earth for 500 years. That's the prophecy. That was prophecy. It is prophecy. And I think we had various successes in that prophecy. Who knows? It might be still going. I think maybe the window maybe has sort of shrunk a little bit. Who knows? If not altogether. But yeah, Saturn, 11th house. 11th house is a house of travel. And Americans have, I think, an innate aversion to going to different countries. So that's real. But we have no hesitation at all in doing business in other countries. That's also real. Or I guess you could say less hesitation. There actually was a lot of hesitation doing business in other countries until the world became global. And then we're like, yeah, we're the first ones. So, promoting global business is also us. Having aversion to business in other places is also us. Having aversion to going to other countries is also us. It's all together with Saturn there. Saturn is also one of the dualistic signs, owning the feminine Capricorn and the masculine Aquarius. So yeah, there's dualism in Saturn as well as most of the other planets besides Sun and Moon, which are a bit more binary. Yeah, Neptune, 11th house too. I could see that. I could see us having just a lot. Neptune is I think, the ruler of the natural 11th house. I don't think it's Uranus. I'm pretty sure it's Neptune. Could be wrong though. Sometimes I get my evolutionary astrology confused, or esoteric astrology confused. But yeah, I mean, definitely Neptune and 11th house are related, and I could see America having just a lot of power. We're the ones who created like the planes and the air freedom and the air power, and that's all Neptune. And even Saturn, even like trying to restrict other people from getting to the moon first, trying to restrict other people from having the planes first, trying to restrict other people from, having the air system and the plane system, and keeping the air travel system, as like America based, and trying to keep it from being as global as possible for as long as possible, trying to keep it from being global for as long as possible. Also, that history of America definitely there in the 11th house. And then on a personal level, as a collective, and individuals, definitely just, again, having a lot of aversion to speaking other people's languages, having aversion to going to other places, living other places, traveling to other places, wanting to travel other places because Neptune is there, and knowing that there's a freedom, but also just wanting to stay at home and really not going anywhere else. Passports being a thing, and customs being a thing, and just kind of like lots of heavy regulations on travel in general. Just kind of destined for that kind of thing, even though it might have happened at different times in different ways. It's all there in the chart. So, and interestingly enough, with Saturn seeing a lot of heavy restrictions to travel during America's last years, during America's elderly years, which I would say we're in right now. Yeah. So makes also sense that, we have a lot of heavy restrictions to travel in America. And to travel, look, get this, and even restrictions to crypto, right? A lot of the crypto companies don't even want America anymore. And even that's there because the 11th house is, sort of global high-tech technology, networking technology, which is what crypto is all about. So, there's even restrictions there. There's restrictions to crypto coming in and out of America, the Americans getting rich on crypto. People don't want Americans to get rich on crypto, especially the islanders. People don't, there's, again, just a lot of obstacles, delays, aversions to travel, 11th house stuff for the collective American spirit and consciousness. And yet, with Neptune there, having a lot of power to travel, having more power to travel than like most of the world, also in the chart, 11th house Neptune, Aquarius, so just very interesting chart altogether. Just like, wow. So yeah, I've been going for, I guess, in like an hour, 40 minutes, 30 minutes or something. So we can, speaking of being averse to details, I think the last part here is about remedies and details, because the details are eventually gonna be a remedy for our healing, when it comes down to. So speaking of details in Virgo a little bit more, what I'll say is, and we'll go to Saturn, Citra, talk about some remedies. So yeah, ultimately the main success point for Americans, for us as Americans, for the America, for even the United States of America Corporation, even that, right? Even not necessarily the country that was co-opted, but even the corporation itself. The remedy, the solution, the reward, I would say the pleasure point is about using these aspects of our consciousness, using these attitudes, using these qualities of consciousness going forward. And so these are the details, but in general, Virgo is the path of the Christ, and surrendering it all, surrendering our addiction to the contact with senses, surrendering to the various ups and downs of material existence, surrendering to how things are, and going from there, not harping on it, saying, okay, cool, this is the karma, and creating a positive mind, bringing our positive mind. And with Saturn in Virgo in the 11th house, that's man, what a spiritual lesson for all of us. Getting out of the negative mind, getting out of the saboteur mind, getting out of the habitually negative, melancholish mind, and actually creating solutions, persevering through our pain, and creating, global solutions, mass solutions, big picture solutions for our own lives, even individually. Getting out of this idea that it's nihilism and the world is doomed. And we're doomed. That's definitely an American thing, having a subconscious like the world is doomed, so we're just gonna have fun thing. Yeah, you better believe stellium and Gemini with Saturn in 11th house in Virgo for sure. So getting out of all of that and flipping it around and really mastering our mind, mastering ourself, mastering our Saturn, being a taskmaster for ourself, gaining control over our own mind. Breathing into that, really, as Americans, as the collective consciousness of America, gaining control over our own mind, the ultimate solution to our entire existence. Huge, absolutely huge, absolutely, 100%. So here we see Citra, which is where Saturn is, and I think Neptune too. We'll take a look. Let's see, where is Neptune? No, Uttara Falguni. So we'll take a look at Neptune a little bit, but yeah, Saturn, 11th house. I think we had a Saturn's return actually not too long ago. So that's kind of interesting. America had another Saturn's return. When, man, you know what? Actually, let's take a look. I think I'm actually very curious about this. Let's take a look at when the last one it was. So let's see Saturn's return, and then we want to see the beginning of Virgo before, we'll say now, 2016. Let's see. Oh, we want Saturn, sorry. Virgo, 2009. Yeah, so that 2008, 2009 crash, that was the last time we had a Saturn's return. The stock market crash was basically a part of America's Saturn's return. Go figure. It was the 3 years before, and then the 3 years during, and then the 3 years after. So wow, yeah, no wonder the 2012 thing was a real transformational point for all Americans. It was basically our Saturn's return. Holy crap. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. I figured so. I don't know if I said that, but I was thinking 2008. And yeah, that's incredibly interesting. Wow. So I'm not even sure how that came up, but yeah, just controlling our own mind. Controlling our own mind is the biggest deal. And that's that I don't have the consciousness yet. I think this reading's been going for quite some time, but go deeper into that. But yeah, it's a pretty big one. So highly recommend everyone to research this stuff, look into it, man, because this is going to provide so much healing. Knowing our collective chart as Americans, very huge, very, 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 very huge. Knowing American chart in general, the real chart, very huge. Trying to be all secretive, like, oh, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm super righteous. Yeah, right. So anyway, very intelligent, intuitive, artistic, good designer, purposeful and enterprising, skilled in organizing, good conversationalist, loves ornaments. So think about Saturn is the Saturn lessons are the opposites of all of these. So we fear our own intelligence, number one. We try to make everybody dumb in the schools. We fear our intuition, number two. We have literally made life without magic. We said, fuck no, there's no magic. There's no superstition. We don't want to be superstitious. Fuck your superstition. We don't want it. Fuck all the witches. We don't want it. We don't want the intuition. We don't want the yin, right? And yet, incredibly intuitive. And yet, Project Monarch and a bunch of other projects literally trying to use the cosmic intuitive factor to control the future. And yet, right? So yeah, definitely, again, controlling our own mind. and coming into the positive, coming into the high vibe, using these things for the higher good, for the collective, for the world. You know, being artistic and yet creating the worst things from our habitually negative mind, number one, and then not really even having the confidence that we can create solutions, right? Not really seeing that the world is artistic and just looking at the problems and just being like, well, fuck, you know? So yeah, you know, just embracing the artistic side for sure, getting more back into the avant-garde, bringing the, what is it called, the Renaissance into the American spirit for sure. A+ for all of us. A good designer, and yet creating incredibly dull designs. Being a good designer, but sabotaging our designs because of a lack of focus, addiction to the sexual energies, and really just having a very dull, narrow sight in only wanting functionality in business. That's Saturn, right? That's Saturn's connection with Venus and design in general. Being good design. Speaking of Venus, Citra, Citra in Earth sign, ruled by Mars, I believe. Let's see. Maybe Jupiter. I think hasta is ruled by Mars, or maybe Rahu. Yeah, hasta is ruled by Rahu. Mars rules Uttara Falguni, I believe. So then that would make Citra, yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, ruling planet is Jupiter. I can check that. On here, I think it says Mars is the ruler, but I don't think that's true. So let me just check my reference real quick. Oh, yeah, the Lord is Mars. Okay. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it was Jupiter. I'll have to organize that one later. But anyway, Citra ruled by Mars. Having a sense of passion and creative energy, and again, stifling it with Saturn here for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So being a good designer, A+, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, using that energy, really good for us, you know, not being afraid of creativity, not being afraid of the unknown, you know, the future, you know, not eating our babies, by the way, eating our Shakti energy, masturbating, all that stuff. It's same, you know, same idea. So not being afraid of the creative energy and using it, you know, designing, creating, you know, creating positive solutions, global solutions, long-term solutions, lifelong solutions, big picture solutions for ourselves, for our community, for our family. You know, that's part of our dharma, part of our work in the world as Americans, for sure. In our each individual local cell. I think that's a lot of times too, that's what Americans do, is we get caught up. We like naturally have this kind of like worldly mother thing with Moon and Aquarius, and I'm emotionally connected to like, man, but I can't save it all. I mean, how many American conspiracy theorists have repeated the meme of feeling overwhelmed that you can't solve all the problems, but they're tracking all the problems. In fact, that's what Americans do. We track the fucking problems, man. Oh man, this chart, man, this reading is intense right now. It's just like such a huge reflection. Anyway, so yeah, purposeful and yet not living in our purpose. So obviously living our purpose is the thing, and really, you know, looking at the fact that we're not living our purpose. We're living for money. We're living for material things. We're living for pleasure. We're living for our addictions to the simple contact of existence. You know, also just Saturn in general being in Virgo, kind of inability to access our innocence. That's another thing too, and really doing the trauma work and accessing our innocence is another thing, and not taking advantage of our innocence, not taking advantage of other people's innocence, looking at when we've taken advantage of other people's innocence, and really repenting for that as well. So much to repent for as Scorpio ascendants. Wow, just like, I feel like that's just an emotion that's felt, but actively choosing to repent as a Scorpio ascendant, just might as well just be step one of everything. Good conversationalist, and yet not having good conversation skills because we're either codependent or passive aggressive, or we're in some sort of drama triangle, which all of that is the Aquarius, Cancer, Virgo kind of scenario. Mars in a water sign, which Mars actually is in a wind sign, but yeah, just Mars obstacles in general to communicating, and yeah, trying to war with people, trying to have a conversation. This is and total 11th house, like internet, 11th house network, internet technology, like phenomena, trying to have debate and conversation with people, and engaging in this conversationalist consciousness, but literally warring with each other, and not having like Saturnian conversation skills, basically kind of being an asshole or being super rude, unconsciously warring, but innocently just really trying to have a conversation. That's so sad. Oh, God bless us all, really. So yeah, actually embracing the conversationalist in us and using the skills with consciousness that we have these problems, that we're embracing our innocence, embracing the innocence of the other, knowing that we might be inclined to get into an argument because people are trying to protect themselves and their ego and so forth, protect their whatever ideas that they have. Being attached to ideas, that's another thing. Saturn in 11th house, being attached to the worldviews, heavy attachment to worldviews, worldview attachment. Wow, Americans, yes, like wow. And so letting go of that for sure. That's the death of us. The ruler of the 11th house, Mercury, ends up being the sort of cause of our eventual demise. Overthinking things to death, just no good. And then loves ornaments. Yeah, that's for sure. Loves ornaments, and yet kind of, again, having in either an addiction to all of these things, an addiction to intelligence, an addiction to intuition, an addiction to art, to design, to purpose, to enterprise, an addiction to ornaments, and having an aversion to it as well, having an aversion to, I'll say, like intelligently designed pillars and social icons around the cities, around the communities that inspire, that actually even fill others with an artistic sense of purpose, and only delegating it to like businesses, art businesses and stuff like that. I think there was a guy in the Bronx, can't remember his name, Michael something maybe. It's in a movie called Waiting for Superman, but he discovered that when you create art installments in an impoverished area, it raises the consciousness of that entire area just by putting the art installments there. So instead of getting a $2 million grant and then putting it in schools or whatever, he actually got the people to put it in art installations that will last beyond the generations. And it turns out that changed the entire society. And so that's kind of what this sort of ornament thing is having really dull ornaments, or an aversion to ornaments, an aversion to actually like placing our communities and our social structures and our cities and our towns with like vibrant, inspiring, kind of like having a Statue of Liberty, but like in every single town, Whereas we delegate it to just business and just like the old and just, you know, these very Saturnian things. So, yeah, that's Saturn, 11th house, Citra. It's really interesting. The ultimate sacrifice. Let's look at that. Sacrificial donation, clothing. Go figure, giving all of our clothing to the quote unquote impoverished countries of the world. It's good though. I'm glad we're doing it. It helps. It helps a lot. It makes perfect sense. Clothing is the sacrifice. Go figure. Yellow clothing too. Yellow just being maybe more about the ego and how most of our clothing is really with brands and brand names and stuff like that. But yeah, clothing for sure. Yeah, clothing live our life. I would say probably it would be really cool if instead of donating random ass clothing, we donated like business suits to the world. That would be amazing if the entire American collective just decided to donate like business clothing. But anyway, I digress. It's pretty deep one. Don't have the consciousness for that. So, all right. Yeah, let's look at something else. Let's see what other details we got. I want to talk about remedies mostly. So just remedies to our transformation. Yeah, we're still on Saturn. We're still in Virgo because this is really what it's all about. I might go 11 from 11th, but I think there's other things that we can do for remedies too. We might do 7th house. We might do 9th house. Some more. Let's see what happens. But yeah, let's look a little bit more in the Citra, and I think we'll go here. Let's do this. Yeah, remedies for America. Definitely, you know, strengthening our weaknesses for sure. Getting less arrogant, less egocentric. I mean, and this is the case for all Americans, you know, and not hating these things either, right? Not hating America because America's arrogant or hating arrogance, being averse to arrogant, you know, actually having some transcendental love with all of these things, and just kind of snuffing them out internally, and then having compassion for those of us who are still expressing these things externally. So, you know, really healing the arrogance, healing the egocentric mind. Being more ethical in our life, you know, actually saving our money and using our money wisely. You know, the funny thing about it is we have such a great business sense, but the purpose of money is making more money, and yet we have a culture of just spending all the money. And so, you know, we have to use money the way it's meant to be, which is to make more money and to save it for things that are important and to use it for, you know, global change, which is Neptune in 11th house with Saturn, you know, so that's the idea. And at least, you know, global change for our own life, for the big change in our own life, saving the money for our own life. The most successful people in America that I've known, there's this guy named Mr. Money Mustache. Mr. Money Mustache. And you know, one of the first ones I've ever heard about him a long time ago in Oregon. And you know, early retirement through badassity. You can't get a more Saturn and Virgo thing from that. And you know, the idea that let's see if we can find like a quick thing. I think, you know, he's been co-opted since the years have gone by, but let's see. Casual sample. Yeah, he doesn't really give. Maybe there's an about somewhere. Nah. Oh, here we go. Maybe we'll see. 30-something retiree who now writes about how we can all live frugal yet the badass life of leisure. They were engineer computer science in Canada, and they retired from real work back in 2005 in order to start a family. This was achieved not through luck or amazing skill, but simply by living a lifestyle about 50% less expensive than most of our peers and investing the surplus into very boring conservative Vanguard index funds and a rental house or two, right? This is what they did. And it doesn't need to be a Vanguard index or a rental house. It can be any asset, like crypto, by the way, that can do it. But the idea is being less of a spendthrift, which our society is all about, which again, we're reading in Citra as a negative quality that we need to heal within ourselves as a collective. So there you go. Uh, yeah, lack of integrity for sure. People still complain about this. People think that this is about hippies. That's the funny thing. People think that hippies are the one that have lack of integrity. And the funny thing is that the people who have a trigger of a lack of integrity have a lack of integrity. They're dealing with it also, probably just a less exaggerated form internally, because that's also what Saturn is about, is reflecting a more exaggerated version of an internal trauma and fault or sin that we have internally that we're not looking at, we're avoiding, because it's Saturn and we want to avoid our own negativity. So you know, this is really healing the lack of integrity as a culture, as a collective, internally, individually, and not getting upset with other people's lack of integrities, and really, you know, trying to improve the best we can in our own life. Judgmental, that's obviously, you know, all of these things, man. Wow, just Americans in general, just holy crap. Wow. it's wild. The stinks are good. These are yeah, these are a part of the remedy for sure. Using all of these is a part of the remedy. Using all of these in the same way that we would use all of these, and we would heal. We would you know, use the positive versions of all of these. Designing our life with a purpose, with enterprise, having enterprising spirit. Using our organization, organizing our life, organizing our mind, organizing our family, using organization skills, not being lazy, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, those are all things that would help. But this is a part of it, like not isolating, you know, as a country, actually being sociable, you know, actually having friends. As a country, go figure, you know, not just being everyone's mom, you know. I can't even imagine America. I wonder what will happen when the American dollar goes down and we actually need friends. I wonder who will be our friends. Maybe Canada. I feel like Canada loves us. Canada has some like cosmic love. Maybe South America too. Who knows? But yeah, actually being sociable, you know, seeing the isolationist in all of us. But yeah, all of these things are very good. High level perception, using our perceptive abilities, keeping spirits high. I would say that's definitely an American thing for sure. You know, mostly because we're all in affluence, and you know, we're not a lot of people. You know, besides like some pretty intense areas in Chicago and the Bronx, and you know, other sort of shanty towns or whatever. But you know, most of us, even who are living in poverty, are still living in affluence, and so having high spirits is kind of easy. And also, it is something that I feel like a lot of Americans have in general. It's just like kind of a high spirit. So using that to our advantage is very good. In the global sense, I would say attractiveness is very good. Like being an American has very attractive quality when you're doing work abroad. Those of you who do work abroad know this. Obviously, you know, also a lot of people hate Americans for a lot of these reasons, but that's not, you know, we're not talking about that necessarily, but just using our strengths. Drawing the philosophy of social thought, printmaking, I mean, the printing press, wow, you know, this is stuff that, yeah, like we're already benefiting. Deep spirituality, you know, like, yeah, America's an incredibly spiritual place. It really is. It really is. America's an incredibly spiritual place. It's like a spiritual mecca, to be honest, you know. There was another set of yogis, set of swamis, swami orders, like a big swami association, several of them, I think, but one major one. And there were some people in there, and they were saying how the women of the West would end up saving the world because America is an incredibly spiritual place. Paramahansa Yogananda said America is an incredibly spiritual place. So yeah, you know, definitely using this as to our advantage is, you know, again, you know, going into those shamanic areas, going into the spiritual areas, you know, not having a fake church, having a real church, not having a cult leader, having a real spiritual group. You know, these are all things like not being afraid to be a cult leader. In fact, not like the fear of the cult leaders and getting over the trauma of cult leaders, and not being afraid to actually say, hey, I have some teachings. I'm not perfect. Let's get together. Don't look at me as a super guru. You know, there's a lot of things that are happening. Like the DAOs, decentralized organizations, are actually Saturn in the 11th house, right? Being an isolationist community, a decentralized autonomous organization, autonomous organism. You know, Saturn 11th house, Virgo. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. So being spiritual in a way that's autonomous and yet collective. Yeah, that's totally in our flow. That's a big thing. That's a huge remedy for sure. Favorable activities, even a part of the remedies. Actually reversing the healthcare system and making it better. Alternative healthcare. Putting really good things in the healthcare, and in fact, our medical system being one of the top ones in the world. It's like that's huge. So yeah, healthcare, huge thing. Very very favorable, giving us a lot of great karma, and preventing disasters like giant earthquakes in California and shit like that. Like lots of great karma. From all the arts and crafts and all the design and all the repair work and technology and mechanical advances and all these things that we've given the world. And I would say on the individual level, again, just using all of these things, using the spiritual practices, using the deep, intimate, soul changing, soul purifying aspect of relationships and relating to the opposite sex, healing the masculine trauma and the feminine trauma from our collective, Scorpio wounds, men trying to dominate women, women trying to dominate men, like going back and forth, healing that, absolutely a part of Scorpio healing for sure. So yeah, this is all there, charisma, eloquence, using all of these things and all these things generating a lot of merit for all of us when we do them. Even looking at America as like, the YouTube, Twitch stream central for the world, having a bunch of American English speaking streamers, giving a charisma and eloquence and performing for the world and generating a lot of positive karma by sharing spiritual practices and design and all these things like on the internet space, because this is all 11th house with the technology and with that dimension. So that's another thing too. Let's see. Okay, let's look into some other stuff. The overall lesson too of Citra. What do we have? Curriculum of architectural engineering, the learning path of dynamism. So yeah, I mean, even that idea of just being less black and white about things, that's huge. That's so huge. Being less black and white about, I mean, that's being black and white about things is might as well, yeah, that's Saturn and Virgo to a T. That's Virgo to a T, kind of. But Saturn and Virgo to a T, yes. Being black and white about, oh wow, these are all the horrible problems that I'm looking at, and that's what it is. The appearance of these things, the perception of these things, my perception of these things is 100% real. That's definitely Saturn and Virgo for sure. So yeah, getting over that, being a little bit more flexible and adaptable, a little bit more dynamic about the reality of things, as Westerners, as Americans, absolutely a part of our healing, for sure. Okay, so this video is long enough. Looks like it's been an hour and a half, so it's like 90 minutes. This might as well be like a full-on session for free for all the Americans. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you've made it through this whole video, wow, God bless you. Thank you so much. And feel free to share this with your friends, with your family. This is huge, America coming out as not even going into Pluto return, by the way, not actually going into Pluto return, talking about it really. But ultimately Pluto return is about the egoic transformation, and healing all of the trauma that we've occurred from our ego. And there's a lot to say about that third house and connection with our brothers and sisters and kind of reuniting more as a tribe as things get a little bit harder for us, and a bunch of other stuff that I could talk about, but I'm not yet. So but yeah, again, thank you for watching this video, and maybe I'll do like another part 2 talking about Pluto specifically. But I feel like even more interesting is what happened with our Saturn's return and a bunch of other returns that could happen very soon. Like we have the stellium in Gemini, and a bunch of stuff's going to be going in stellium next year. and or maybe even later. No, I think, yeah, I think next year, yeah. Yeah, anyway, this has been really fun, and I really appreciate it. Once again, my name is Keenan Gabriel. For anyone watching this who doesn't actually know me, who's not part of Tribe, I have a business called Isha, Jaguar Oracle, and for free, I'll have all the links to all the channels, all the stuff on there later. So I highly recommend all the astrologers look at this date as the real date. You can do it for the Western astrology too, but I think we need more Vedic astrology, more Chinese astrology, more human designers. I might even do a whole thing on the human design of America personally, because that sounds super fascinating, doing a whole gene keys on America. So I think this is a big deal. There's so much energy here, and I got a lot of juice for it. So I think there's definitely going to be a part 2 and part 3. Might do some more astrologies on it. So yeah, once again, thank you. And aloha, God bless you. Peace in your heart and walk in love always.